Hi guys, this is Atco. In my game room I have acquired things that makes me remember my life growing up in the 60s. I've added music, record and tape players, radios, model cars, even telephones into my game room. What I'd like to show you now is my small collection of games that I enjoyed growing up. So let's go into my toy chest and take a look and see what we got. Okay, any of you guys that are in your 50s or older would probably somewhere along your line when you were growing up is to play with Etch-A-Sketch. The idea here was that you could, using just two controls, that you could make a picture out of this. Be kind of creative for your something with these. I don't know how good this is. I have no artist creativity here, so I never did very well on these things. I mean, it's amazing what people could create with these using just going left and right or up and down. But it's still something to take a lot of time and a lot of fun. Of course, everything now would be on a computer, but back in the 60s and 70s, these were pretty cool. Etch-A-Sketch. Okay, now here's something else I had to have, and I put this in a table in my game room that anybody can play with, and everybody remembers these magic 8-ball and balls, and what you do is you would shake it and then you'd ask it a question like, do you think YouTube is going to let us use music without any copyright? Let's ask a question. Okay, here it comes up, says yes. Well, what do you know? Who knows what's coming up in the future? But anyways, we used to always have fun with that, and I think there was some kind of game you could play with this thing too, but pretty much everybody would just ask a question and it would come up with something that's always it's going to be a yes or no type question, but it's kind of a fortune cookie type of response. Now these guys, when I was in the early 60s, I guess, they had these things called slot cars, and they were really popular in the 60s and the 70s. But the original ones came out, they were just HO scale, and Aurora was one of the first ones that had it. And I got one of these, and you get these little, look like a little steering wheel, and you drive around and you make these tracks, and you'd have these little cars, and they had this would allow you to get the electricity to go onto the tracks. We had a big table, and I had put a track all around, and back in the, you could buy all these different parts that would make the thing would go around. You could go around the whole thing of your 2 or 3 layers of the track up and going over these little bridges and things and going through these things. And man, I love this thing all the time. And these were good when they first came out, and then they made them a little bit bigger after a while, and they gave you better controls than this thing, because they used to break all the time. But I had this, and so one of the things I wanted to have in my game room was something to show how much fun I had with these old Aurora games. Okay, now here's something. This isn't a game. This was actually, it was for cough drops, and it was by the company was called Smith Brothers. I don't know how good they are as far as cough drops, but they were very, very popular back in the 60s and 70s. I don't know if they're still in business or not, but the flavor was so strong that we used to always just buy the darn things to eat them, because the wild cherry and some of the other flavors are very, very strong. So I keep that on top of my my game room too, in the table when people come here, and sure enough, anybody that's in my age, they say, "Oh, I remember those." Okay, here's another thing that's it's food. It's not a game, but if you're in the 50s or older, you remember these fizzies. What these were was, you just take some water, glass of water, and you throw in one of these little tablets, and you'd put a different flavor in, and they would make, you know, like this one's an orange, it would make like a fizzled water inside of it, kind of with give you some pops and tops and stuff in it, and they were very, very, very popular, because everybody, the kids, just like, you drop a little tablet in there, and it's like putting Alka-Seltzer into the water, you know. And whether they tasted any good, I don't know, but they're real popular, and everybody had to have them when you were a kid. So I like to keep one of those on the table as well, because as anybody sees this, they say, "Oh yeah, I remember those." None of you guys watch any of my videos, you know I'm into these model cars, and all this started back when I was a kid. And you know, a lot of us kids back in the 60s, we would make model cars. You know, it was very popular. You'd buy a box of a kit for a car. All these could be, you know, hundreds of parts into one of these little things. Put it together. When you're done, you know, you glue it all back together with the cement, and then you, after that, you would use the different, you know, this one was Testors paints, and put your model cars or your plane models, and yeah, I made a lot of those when I was a kid. I actually made more plane models than I did cars, where I'd make them from a kit. So I don't have a kit to really do right now. I bought all these parts and that to have it, first of all, just to remember having that stuff. And now that my nephew is just 10, and we put one together for him, you know, I guess 6 months ago, and he was interested at some point. I still think it's another year or two before it, you know, has more, can handle with a lot of points, a lot of parts. But anyways, that's why I keep this. Now, you know, if you've seen my game room, I've got probably 50 model cars, mostly 1/18 scale, all around my game room. And the reason I have that in my brain is because I had these little model cars when I was a kid. I didn't have that many of them, maybe 7 or 8, and this was the first one I ever had. Of course, this is not the one I had, but I was lucky enough to get this same model that came out. It was a 1960 Ford station wagon, and that was my first model car that I had gotten, probably on a birthday or something like that. And I ended up getting, I think I had a Pontiac 62, and I had a Buick 62, and I had a Falcon, I had a 1957 Ford, and I think I had like a Lincoln or something too when I was a kid, and I had them around the top of my room when I was in. So now I can see why I've got them all over my game room now. But yeah, they were a big thing in my life, and it was really cool to get this one that was the first one I had. Okay, now this is called a labyrinth, and this is something that you know, of course today the kids play all their games on PCs and 8 Xboxes and all that stuff, but back then in the 60s they didn't have any of that kind of stuff, not that much electronic stuff, and this was one of the things that were very popular. This was called a labyrinth, and you put this ball in here, and then you have to try to get from one place to another, from the beginning to the end, without going through one of the holes in here. And you move it around by moving around the table here to keep it from falling down. So let's see what we can do here. Here's where it comes from the start. And there we go. Oh, kind of lost my touch here. But here's the thing. You just go around this thing through the ball and try to keep playing with this thing and keeping your hands in real touch around the top, and see if you make it all the way through the top to the end. Okay, and now the last of my toys that I remember as a kid that I keep now in my game room is Simon. Now this is not the original Simon. It came back again probably in the 80s, I guess. It's the same thing. They made it look a little bit more current, but it's still the same game. And the idea is that once you put the color or a sound on the game here, and then you would have to play it back again. It's kind of a memory little game. Okay, let's see if we can start on this thing. Go. Okay, I think I'm going to stop it there because it's driving my Chihuahua crazy. But later, that's how it goes. Well, I hope some of you guys remember some of these things. For now, it's time to put them back into the toy chest, and till the next time I want to show them off or just go out somewhere to have fun. So guys, this is Atco, signing off.